Have you ever wondered why some men always seem to return, as if something invisible keeps drawing them back, even after an intimate moment that felt like the end? What if I told you it's not your words, not how you act, and not even what happens between the sheets, but something far deeper, something Carl Jung would call an unconscious force of the soul? Jung believed that intimacy is never just physical. It's a meeting of two unconscious worlds. Every touch, glance, and silence carries hidden meaning, symbols that reach beyond logic. After such a deep connection, what happens inside you shapes everything that follows. If you respond with anxiety, need for control, or fear of loss, he senses it, not with his mind, but through the subtle language of the unconscious. Yet, when you turn inward, breathe, and meet yourself with compassion instead of panic, everything changes. You become a calm mirror, one that reflects truth, confidence, and mystery. This is where attraction transforms into something unforgettable. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming whole. When you give yourself away after intimacy, waiting for messages or reassurance, you lose that wholeness. But when you return to yourself with quiet grace, not to punish or manipulate, but to reconnect, you send a message that words could never express. I am whole, even without you. And that silent truth is magnetic. It draws him in, not through desperation, but through your energy, an energy most men rarely encounter. You're no longer chasing love. You are love, contained, grounded, radiant. He feels it even if he can't explain it. Jung's ideas about the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies within each person, explain this pull. A man often suppresses his emotional side. Society teaches him that softness equals weakness. When he meets a woman who is emotionally grounded, who does not seek validation, something inside him awakens. She reflects the emotional depth he's been taught to hide. It's not her body he remembers. It's the emotional state she evokes, the calm he feels in her presence. After intimacy, when a woman does not chase, over-explain, or beg for clarity, yet remains emotionally open and centered, she creates what Jung might call a sacred silence. It's not cold or distant. It's a silence filled with warmth, dignity, and inner strength. In that silence, a man begins to face what Jung described as the shadow, the hidden, unacknowledged parts of himself. He feels an emptiness he cannot name. He starts wondering, what was it about her? Why does she stay in my mind? And without realizing it, he's drawn back. Not because she asked, but because something in her awakened something in him. That is the true power of feminine energy. It doesn't chase, it attracts naturally. Jung taught that every deep relationship is an opportunity for healing. When you face your loneliness, your waiting, and your insecurities without running from them, you step into your power. You become whole. Not half of a relationship, but a complete soul capable of love without losing yourself. That integrity is what makes men come back. Not from guilt or manipulation, but from an inner recognition. He feels safe, seen, and challenged by your authenticity. Deep down, we all crave what's real. And nothing feels more real than a woman at peace with herself. So what should you do after intimacy? The answer is simple but profound. Return to yourself. Care for your body with love, your emotions with patience, and your mind with awareness. Don't fill the silence with worry. Fill it with presence. That inner stillness becomes your most powerful energy, one that no man forgets. Because he doesn't miss your body, he misses the peace he felt near your soul. Jung once said that everything we refuse to face within ourselves doesn't disappear. It hides in the unconscious. When a woman embodies self-awareness after intimacy, she doesn't trigger his defenses. She awakens his truth. He may not know why, but he'll feel it. That rare, grounding presence he cannot replace. It's not a game. It's not a strategy. It's alignment. The sacred moment when your peace becomes his mirror. And once a man experiences that kind of depth, he never truly forgets it. The silence of a woman who doesn't beg, who doesn't chase and who doesn't lose herself after intimacy speaks louder than any words ever could. It's not a cold silence, but one filled with strength, dignity, and self-respect. A silence that forces a man to confront what he has long avoided within himself. That's why so many men find their way back. It's not because of the body, but because of the soul. Because beside a centered woman, a man feels something rare: peace, depth, and authenticity. And make no mistake, this isn't manipulation. Carl Jung never endorsed control or mind games. He taught that true transformation only comes through self-honesty and inner confrontation. So when we talk about the energy that makes a man come back, it's not about tactics or emotional games. It's about an inner choice, a decision to remain whole. When a woman refuses to abandon herself after intimacy, she sends a silent yet undeniable message: I belong fully to myself. And that energy, calm yet magnetic, awakens in him the forgotten desire to also belong to himself. Because deep down, everyone craves relationships that restore rather than drain us, that bring us closer to our essence rather than pull us away. We all long for someone who silently says, I see you, I respect you, I value you. Jung believed relationships act as mirrors, reflecting our deepest wounds, idealizations, and fears. And in intimacy, those reflections become even clearer. What happens after that moment matters most. It's where masks fall and truth surfaces. If a woman reacts with anxiety, chasing validation, a man doesn't rationalize it. He simply feels it as neediness. But when he senses that she's calm, whole, and grounded in herself, that energy imprints deeply in his unconscious. It's the image that lingers long after she's gone. Imagine this. After an intimate encounter, he vanishes. No text, no call. Most would panic, overanalyze, spiral into self-doubt. But what if, instead of chasing, you turned inward? What if you held yourself with compassion and chose stillness instead of chaos? Jung spoke of integrating the shadow, embracing the pain rather than rejecting it. When you face it consciously, you radiate emotional maturity, and that energy is magnetic. Because every emotionally evolved man longs for a woman who is not an escape, but a sanctuary, a place where he can meet himself. To become that sacred space, you must be anchored deeply in your own essence. That quiet strength is revolutionary, especially for men who have spent decades trapped in emotionally draining cycles. When a man, perhaps in his 50s or 60s, meets a woman who doesn't chase yet doesn't close her heart, he feels something profoundly new: respect. A love that doesn't suffocate, but liberates. Jung believed that such feminine energy transforms the masculine soul. Conscious relationships, he said, are sacred grounds for healing, but only when both souls are ready to evolve. When you nurture your inner life, your rituals, your silence, you become an unspoken invitation for him to rise, to grow, to reconnect with what is real. And when he's ready, he returns, not because you asked, but because you became unforgettable. Jung once said the greatest fear of all is to truly know oneself. Most men fear vulnerability more than loss. But when a woman stands in her truth, when she embraces herself after intimacy with grace, patience, and love, she becomes a living reflection of that courage. And that kind of strength is irresistibly magnetic, not in a seductive way, but in a soulful one. This isn't about winning him back through charm or control. It's about being real, grounded, whole. You become a sacred mirror where another soul can rest and be challenged to grow. That, Jung would say, is the alchemy of love, the transformation of desire into deep self-awareness. And it only happens when you choose, after intimacy, to return to yourself. Because in that quiet return lies the timeless secret of why men come back. They don't return out of habit or ego. They return because something inside them remembers truth. As Jung wrote, the psyche seeks harmony and balance. When a man experiences something real, something that touches his soul, it leaves an imprint no distraction can erase. He may try to move on, but that memory, that energy stays. Because it wasn't just a fleeting connection, it was a meeting with his own soul through yours. And so eventually he returns. Not because you waited, not because you pleaded, but because truth always calls back what's lost. But this return only happens when you let it, when you give space for silence, growth, and transformation. Jung reminded us that real healing demands sacred time, contemplative quiet, and sometimes, yes, the courage to sit in pain. Because only through that stillness do we truly become whole, and it's that wholeness that draws everything back home. He has to feel that ache in his soul, that silent pull of nostalgia, to truly realize the value of what you shared. If you try to rush this natural process, sending messages, demanding answers, or reasoning your way into his heart, you only interrupt his inner evolution. You give him conclusions before his soul has even begun to ask the real questions. But when you hold your silence with calm dignity, when you give him space without abandoning yourself, you create the perfect ground for a conscious return. More importantly, you protect your own sacred energy. You begin to heal and grow, not because you're waiting for him to come back, but because you've already found completeness within yourself. And that wholeness is exactly what makes any future reunion infinitely more powerful and authentic. Of course, this isn't easy. We live in a world that teaches us to chase, to fix, to avoid emptiness at any cost. But Carl Jung reminds us that the void is not a punishment, it's the womb of transformation. It's in the silence, in the space between what was and what will be, that your consciousness begins to awaken. When the noise fades, your soul finally whispers the truths you were too busy to hear. So after intimacy, don't panic or lose yourself in longing. Instead, turn that space into sacred time. Do things that fill you up from the inside. Read words that open your mind. Walk through nature and breathe deeply. Sip your coffee slowly while watching the sky stretch wide and endless. Reconnect with old dreams. Write, dance, pray, laugh with the people who nourish your spirit. Because while you do this, something invisible is also shifting within him. Deep beneath his pride, confusion, and distraction, his soul begins to stir. The experience you shared with him plants a seed, and that seed grows quietly in the dark. Time, which we often treat as an enemy, becomes the soil where awareness ripens. And when he does return, if he returns, he will be different. More grounded, more present, more aware, and perhaps finally ready to meet you truly, without masks, without fear. But not every man comes back, and that's okay too, because the purpose of this experience isn't about his return, it's about your rebirth. Jung taught that every relationship is a mirror, and when that mirror breaks, it's not a tragedy, but a revelation. Look into the fragments with curiosity. Ask yourself, what did this connection reveal about me? Which hidden wounds surfaced? What parts of my being were illuminated? Each answer becomes sacred material for your growth. Even if he never returns, you've gained something priceless. Yourself. You've seen your own strength, your tenderness, your power to stay open and loving even in pain. You've reclaimed your peace. And this version of you, whole, conscious, emotionally mature, will naturally attract those who vibrate on the same wavelength. Because real love can only exist between two people who are not running from themselves. If he isn't ready for that level of truth, let life shape him in his own time. You don't need to teach him your worth or prove your value. You simply need to embody it. Jung believed that when two kindred souls are truly ready, the universe has a way of aligning their paths again. But that kind of magic never comes from desperation. It blooms from stillness, from truth, from a woman who has learned to rest deeply in her own being. So after intimacy, if you want to do something truly transformative, return to yourself. Take care of what you feel without shame or resistance. Honor your openness, your sensitivity, your strength. Trust what was awakened between you, because if it was real, he will feel it too. Maybe he'll resist it for a while. Maybe he'll drown it in distraction. But the call of the soul always finds its way through. And when he finally returns, you won't need to question it. You'll know what to do because you will no longer come from fear, but from freedom. Jung said the highest sign of emotional maturity is to love without losing yourself, to stand in wholeness even when the world pushes you toward dependency. That is the journey home to yourself, to your truth, to your peace. And when you walk this path, something magical happens. You become irresistibly magnetic. Your calm presence, your quiet confidence, your grounded energy draw others in effortlessly. Because attraction isn't about chasing, it's about becoming. So here are a few timeless reminders. Stop seeking closure from others. Give it to yourself. Nurture your mind and body daily. Keep your mystery alive by living fully. Let silence be your strength, not your punishment. And remember, when a woman is at peace with herself, the whole world feels her gravity. She doesn't chase love. Love finds her. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hidden Words, where psychology meets soul. Discover more Carl Jung-inspired insights on love, attraction, and self-worth that empower you to stay grounded, magnetic, and free. Turn on the bell icon for daily videos that help you master emotional depth and become unforgettable in every connection.